that defunding them is the bare minimum. I mean, it's not even close to the full extent of what should be done to shut down these butchers and child abusers and bring them to justice. We've spent a lot of time on this show discussing psychiatric drugs like SSRIs, and the problem with these drugs is that they're incredibly potent, potentially dangerous, and they affect the mind in ways that the doctors prescribing them don't fully understand. And all these problems are compounded by the fact that they are increasingly easy to obtain. In fact, as the problems with psychiatric medications become more evident, the barriers to access those drugs only become lower. It seems that, things should be working the opposite way, but that's not how it goes. And if you want to get a highly potent, dangerous, mind-altering drug these days, you can get it. In fact, you probably don't even have to leave your house to get it. You can get it mailed to you. And this trend is becoming more and more common with an ever-increasing array of drugs. They are very easy to get. There's very little oversight, and you don't have to leave your house to obtain them. This is a major problem that will require all kinds of legislation to fix, but there are some steps we can and must take immediately to address this problem, address the problem of fraudulent, life-altering drugs being handed out in large quantities to young people in particular, basically on demand. One of those steps is to defund some of the largest distributors of these life-altering drugs, which is something that should have happened a long time ago, of course. If we can't ban these people from operating outright, then at the very least, we should stop giving them money and we should stop giving them tax breaks. What's happening is a genuine crisis, and it's not limited to SSRIs. It extends to a whole host of other drugs as well. And a new investigation by Live Action, the pro-life nonprofit, has just brought renewed urgency to this crisis and how completely out of control the problem really is. What I'm about to play is part of an undercover investigation by Live Action where they contacted various Planned Parenthood locations posing as a 16-year-old girl. And in these conversations, Live Action's 16-year-old girl requests, quote-unquote, gender-affirming care, including cross-sex hormones. And Planned Parenthood responds by saying that this is completely fine. They say that they'll do it virtually over, Zoom or something like that. And then they suggest that if the girl goes to a clinic in person, she does not need to be accompanied by her mother in the examination room. Watch.
Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood.
Thank you for choosing Planned Parenthood, Greater New York.
Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for calling Planned Parenthood.
Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm just trying to schedule some gender-affirming care. I really just want to be able to get some testosterone to start my journey.
So we just have to start by booking your initial appointment so you can come in to see one of our providers.
Are you over 18?
No, I'm 16.
You're good to be seen here then, 16 and older.
Okay, good. You're okay to do it for minors?
Yes, you can legally get hormones under 18.
How old are you?
16. I know my mom has to come in with me. Does she have to be in there the whole time? Like, how does that work? Because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
At some point in the appointment, maybe she doesn't have to be in the examining room with you.
You said I could do it virtually?
Yeah, you could do it virtually.
So what would that look like? So I just talk to a doctor and then they'd be able to prescribe me?
Yeah, if it's virtual, you'll still meet with the doctor and then go over all necessary information. At the end, they will then be prescribing hormones that would then be scripted out to your local pharmacy.
I don't need any therapy or anything first? You don't need any record of that?
Not that I know of.
I don't need any sort of records of having gone to therapy or anything like that, right?
Yeah, so unless you have TRICARE insurance, it would not be required.
Now, this footage is part of an extensive investigation by Live Action into Planned Parenthood, and the full report was just released this week. To put things in context, Planned Parenthood is the leading abortion mill in the country. They commit roughly 40% of the abortions in this country all by themselves, and they receive something like $700 million from taxpayers every single year. So what exactly is that money buying, aside from abortions and irreversible drugs for children? Well, according to Live Action, citing various investigations, it's allowing Planned Parenthood to traffic in human body parts, commit all kinds of health code and privacy violations, engage in anti-white racism at all levels of the operation. And I'm not going to go through the entire report now. It's online if you want to view it, and you should. But I will highlight this one particular section, quote, at least 40,000 patients went to Planned Parenthood for gender-affirming care, quote unquote, in 2023 alone, a number that has risen tenfold since 2017. The largest proportion, about 40%, were 18 to 22-year-olds. According to Live Action, 45 out of Planned Parenthood's 49 affiliated facilities provide this so-called care, and Planned Parenthood is now the second largest provider of so-called gender-affirming hormones in the entire country. The report continues, Planned Parenthood targets minors for gender-affirming care by disseminating pro-transgender ideology online and in schools. It is also stated that it would like to expand its gender-affirming care to a greater number of minors. The report cites a video from Planned Parenthood in which the organization claims that puberty blockers are, quote, like a stop sign that pauses puberty without any potential side effects, which is completely false. Planned Parenthood also provides sex education materials to elementary schools, according to this report, including, quote, information about puberty blockers and graphics of pubic hair art. Now, in some cases, Live Action notes that Planned Parenthood was caught referring a 14-year-old undercover actor to gender-affirming treatments at another organization so that he could hide his so-called transition from his parents, and it goes on and on. Every page of this report is extremely difficult to read, and it's all very damning. Even if you put all the baby murder to the side, which you can't, because that's still obviously the most evil thing this organization does, or any organization does on the planet. But even if you did somehow forget about that, Planned Parenthood still remains one of the most evil organizations in the country. Their explicit goal is to permanently alter the lives of young people with surgeries and hormones long before they're able to consent to anything like that. And as the report outlines, half the time, they don't even follow their own protocols, as limited as those protocols already are. Now, what's left unanswered in all of this is why Planned Parenthood still receives hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding. Republicans, as you may know, control Congress and the White House. So why the hell are we still sending all this money to these butchers? To be clear, as Live Action's report outlines, you probably don't even need legislation to stop this funding. There are dozens of violations listed in this report which document Planned Parenthood's issues with patient privacy, fraud, trafficking of fetal remains, and so on. All of these problems by themselves are grounds for an executive order shutting down the funding immediately, but that hasn't happened yet, and Congress hasn't done anything either. Nor have they done anything about the mass prescription of SSRIs. Now, to be clear, Planned Parenthood should be forcibly shut down by law. I mean, the entire organization should just be, the whole organization should be banned, and all of its executives and employees at every level of the company should be put on trial for crimes against humanity. There should be a Nuremberg for Planned Parenthood executives, but that's not likely to happen anytime soon, unfortunately. There are a lot of things that should happen but won't, and this is probably number one on that list. So what I'm saying is that defunding them is the bare minimum. I mean, it's not even close to the full extent of what should be done to shut down these butchers and child abusers and bring them to justice. It's just the most meager first step. It's the step where we at least stop forcing Americans to fund these psychopaths. And yet we haven't even done that. Republicans control the federal government, and yet somehow we are still sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood. Why? What is the reason? I mean, what would be the negative consequence of defunding Planned Parenthood? The left will be mad? The media will complain? What, the activists will scream and sing protest songs in the street? Now, that last bit is pretty painful, I admit, but is any of that enough to override the great moral necessity of defunding an organization that kills and castrates children? Obviously not. Especially because the protesters will be shrieking and screaming anyway. The media will complain regardless. The left will be mad no matter what. They're going to cry no matter what. We might as well give them something real to cry about. Now, that's not to say that Republicans in Congress haven't done anything at all. They're technically still showing up to work. Later in the show, we'll talk about what they accomplished this week, though, spoiler alert, it's not exactly groundbreaking stuff, although it is good. But it's well past time for elected Republican representatives, along with the White House, to take decisive action on the ghouls and butchers who call themselves healthcare providers. You know, last time Republicans controlled the entire government, nothing was done about Planned Parenthood funding. We just kept funding them. And that cannot happen again. It just cannot. If we can defund NPR, and the White House says we can, then we can defund these abortionists too. And we can stop corporations from distributing psychoactive drugs like they're candy while we're at it. After all, this is what we voted for. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.